My name is James Cameron. No, not this James Cameron, this James Cameron. I grew up in Coney Island, Brooklyn, New York. Oh my goodness, what a time it was. I now live in Virginia, and over the last 15 years, I've been portraying an 18th century man of color by the name of John Rollison. I also worked in radio broadcasting for over 15 years. I also played briefly, very briefly, in the NBA. It all started when I was 13 years old. Yes, that's me at 13. I was a handsome individual, wasn't I? But before all of that, I had another passion. I loved Rolls Royces. Well, a few years ago, I accomplished my dream. I purchased a 1985 Rolls Royce Silver Spur. And that's where the nightmare began. But it was through trial and error that I discovered that there was a way to actually purchase these cars and maintain them that could save the buyer of future cars like this thousands of dollars. Now that is the sound of power. Let's take a trip. Come on, come along with me. I have now taken that knowledge and will now share it with you. My name is James Cameron, and I want to welcome you to the Rolls Royce and Bentley University Buyer's Guide. Let's start class.
It's Josh Wicks here from Wicks Rods Kustoms off of 5612 Moortown Road, Williamsburg, Virginia. We're here with James's Rolls Royce today. We're going to do an oil change and change out the fuel filter. We're going to use Valvoline VR1 oil for the oil change. It's a 20W50 high zinc oil. With that high zinc content, it helps the older motors with push rods and stuff like that with the metal-to-metal contact surfaces. It helps reduce wear and reduce friction in them to add some life to the motor and stuff like that. And with the higher viscosity with a motor with some mileage on it and stuff like that, it helps up that oil pressure and everything for it, and it makes it last a little longer. We're going to use a Wicks filter for the oil filter and the fuel filter as well. I usually crack them loose a little bit, let it drain out most of the oil, so then when I go to take it off, it doesn't spill all over the place. It's the Wicks filter. This is the oil filter, part number 57302. Being that this filter sits sideways, I'm only going to put a little bit in it, and you want to make sure you lube up the O-ring before you put it on, so when you go to tighten it down, it doesn't drag the O-ring and actually lets it slide and seat very well. When you tighten these up, they only need to be hand tight, so once it seats on there, you really want to get about a half turn or so past. So you just snug it up. You don't need to crank it down, you don't need to put a tool on it or anything like that. And then what we'll do is we'll wipe all this down, get this cleaned up, we'll put the drain plug back in it, and then we'll go ahead and work on changing out the fuel filter. Fuel filter on these cars is located right here on this rear cross member. What we'll end up doing is we're going to break these two lines loose, and this is going to drain the gas out of it. We'll pull the filter out, and there's two fittings here on the that's installed in the filter. We're going to have to pull these out and install them on the new filter. On these fittings, you'll see there's a copper washer. That's the sealing washer. You want to make sure that you put new ones on those as well. That way you don't have any leaks when it screws down into the new filter. I'm going to pull off this clamp, which typically these clamps have a full rubber piece here that slides onto this little bracket back here. And it's just a hose clamp, and you tighten that down and that'll hold this in place. Get the lines and everything tightened up, we'll lower the car down, we'll put a wall in it, and then we'll turn the cycle of the key to prime the fuel pump, and at that point we'll go back and we'll check to make sure there's no leaks or anything like that from the filter here, and then we'll start the car. So the Rolls Royce takes 8.5 quarts to fill. So what I'll do is I'm going to put 8 quarts in it, prime it, we're going to start it and run it, check the oil level, and then we'll add that half quart, maybe a little extra when you drain it out. Depends on how long you let it sit there and drain out. It could vary just a little bit, so I usually like to run it, make sure the whole system's primed up, and then go back, turn it off, and check the oil level afterwards. This time you can take a look at things underneath the hood and everything, make sure there's nothing that stands out that might need attention. I don't see any leaks here, so we're good to get the car. See, it's right there at the max level.